Hello everyone, welcome to Sharmit. In this session, we are going to talk about another very important topic related to Model Context Protocol, and that is MCP Context Object logging. So by the end of this session, you will be able to understand what is MCP Context Object, why MCP logging is important, how we can implement that. So these all things we are going to discuss in this particular session, theoretical wise. Okay, because before we directly jump into the practical example, it's better to understand at least the basic concepts of it. Okay, that's why we are covering this in a theoretical session, and from next session onwards we will start again the practical things. But before that, I just would like to recommend you to please go and check out the previously released session first, because they all are in proper sequence and sync. So if you follow it sequentially, then it would be much more easier for you to understand the ongoing topic, because for time being we are just mainly focusing on MCP Context Object, but prior to that you should know what is other basic thing that we covered, right? So for that you can also refer the Sharmit digital course book, which is freely available in the description box. There you will find thousands of sessions available in both Hindi as well as English language. So without any language barrier, you can easily consume the content, and in case if there is any query or questions, you can feel free to reach out to me through comment section. I would be more than happy to answer all your queries. Okay. Alright, so let's get started and see what is context object in MCP. So definition wise, it's very simple and straightforward. The context object is a special object that the MCP server passes to your tool or handler, which contains useful information about the current request and provides helper method such as logging, reporting progress, or sending notification depending on the SDK. Okay, so in simple term you can say that it's a kind of assistant for your MCP code, which gives you extra information about the request and lets you communicate with the MCP client. So in short, it helps us to establish a proper communication between the MCP client and server through some information like logging, reporting, progress, and sending notification. Okay, I think definition wise we are good. Now let's talk about the real life analogy. So imagine you are a delivery driver, okay, and you don't just receive the package, you also receive a delivery sheet containing customer detail, delivery instruction, contact number, and status update. So overall you can see that delivery sheet is similar to the context object, like delivery driver, delivery sheet, context, contains useful information, helps complete the delivery. So these are the all steps that we are supposed to follow for the these are the all steps that are processed during the context object processing. Okay, let me explain it in a very simple terms, like why do we really need the context object. Okay, so just imagine like we are not using the context object. So in that case your function can only process input and return the output. Okay, it has only these two ability, like it can process your input and it can return your output. But with the context object, it can also write logs, it can also report progress, it can also send the notification, and it can also access request related information. And obviously if we have context object, it will help us to debug the program problems more easily. Okay, and these are the all reasons that makes your MCP server easier to monitor and maintain. Okay, now we will talk about the another very important term, that is logging. So we'll try to understand what is logging, and then we will continue the definition scenarios. Okay, so logging means recording messages about what your program is actually doing. So instead of printing message to the terminal, you can create a structured log entries that help developer to understand what happened during your execution of the program. Okay, so examples of log messages are like we will send these kind of messages like tool started, now we are reading the customer database, now processing the request, and now request completed successfully. So these are all steps that goes behind the scene when we are fetching the information from the server. So overall you can say that user interact with AI assistant, then MCP client, then MCP server, then tool execution, and in tool execution context write logs, context report progress, context return result, and then response to the AI. So the logs are primarily for the developers and debugging. They are not normally shown to the end user. Okay. Now if we talk about the levels of logs, so mostly login system supports different severity levels. So here I have created one table. On first column we have level like debug, info, warning, error, critical. Second column will help us to understand when to use it, and third will tell us what are the examples. Okay, so first level is debug, detailed troubleshooting, like examples are variable, API payloads. Info level, when to use, for normal operation, examples are tool started. Warning, something unexpected but recoverable, then example is like API response is slow. Error level, when operation failed, database connection failed. Critical, serious failure, server unavailable. So these are the all things like that are considered as a level for the logging system. Okay, now we will talk about why logging is important. So logging basically helps you to find bugs, understand failure, track execution flow, measure performance, monitor production systems. Without log, debugging often becomes much more difficult. Okay, so these are the all reasons that help us to understand why logging is important. Now we know what is context object, now we know what is logging, so it's time to see what are the best practices. Okay, so for best practices you can say that log, you can see it can log, we should log important events. Okay, use appropriate log levels like info, warning, error, etc. according to the requirement. Include useful context such as IDs or request detail. Okay, but there are some downs also. Do not log password, API keys, tokens or other sensitive data. Okay, don't fill logs with unnecessary messages. Okay, if it is not needed, then do not put the unnecessary messages to it. Okay, now let's conclude whatever things we have learned in this session. So you can say that context is our helper, logging is our diary. So we can say that context object helps your MCP code and logging record what happened, so you can understand and debug it later. If you have to summarize the entire concept in simple terms, so we can say context object is passed to MCP handler and provides helper functionality. One of the most common uses is logging. Logging records the execution of your tool for debugging and monitoring. Use appropriate log levels like debug, info, warning and error. Never log confidential or sensitive information, and good logging makes MCP server much easier for troubleshooting and maintenance. So I think now you have idea, at least theoretical idea of what is logging, what is object context, right? From next session again we will start our practical demo where we will see what all examples are there that we should know for model context protocol logging process. Okay, and meanwhile you can do the practice and make sure that you have answered all the questions that we asked in all session. And why it is important, because when you write the answers in the comment section, it gives me the notification that you are referring this series, and on the basis of that only I release the new sessions for this particular playlist. That's why I request you to please do share your knowledge in the comment section through those answers, and if there is any queries or question, feel free to reach out to me through comment. So yeah, that's all for today. See you in the next session with new topics. So thank you for watching Tech Sharmit.